Hello everyone, let's take a look at the case study, The Experiment. I'm providing you here with a step-by-step guidance on how you apply the various finance sources and related terms to the film, The Experiment. What you're seeing here on the right side and also reflected in the case study on your modules is a sales report from a sales agent. This sales report for the film The Experiment includes on the left side the sales estimates. So the first three columns, which include the list of all the various countries, the ask price listed for each of the country, the target or take price, which is the lowercase price, listed for each of the countries. And on the actual column, you see the pre-sales that were actually made. Now, when we look at the left side and just focus on the countries that are listed on the left side, the ask price, which is basically the price the sales agent will ask the distributor to pay for the license of this film, The Experiment, to be shown in the country the distributor is acquiring for. And we see here that the ask price is summarized to be projected at $16,165,000. The take price, which is the target price, is our low case scenario. This is also the column the bank or any lender or investor will look at when they consider our film for financing. So here we see a lower amount, which is our worst case / low case scenario. For each country, there is a license fee listed here that is a projected revenue amount on a low case scenario for each of those countries. So the sales estimates are projections reflecting revenues from international sales of distribution rights as well as US distribution rights in this case here. When we go to the actual column, these are pre-sales. So these are actual sales made by the sales agent and reported to us. Pre-sales are distribution agreements. And the only difference between a pre-sale and a sale, both of which are distribution agreements, to distributors from each of these countries who buy a license for their country, is a pre-sale is a sale that is done before the film is finished. So we see here the various buyers, distributors that have bought the rights. So we see a buyer for the Benelux who has paid $150,000, which is Dutch Filmworks. We see a buyer for Germany, for example, who paid, it looks like 1.5 million, and that is Constantin Film. So we see these different buyers that are listed here who pre-bought the distribution rights for the film The Experiment. So altogether, we have accomplished $5 million, roundabout, $5,116,800 to be precise, in pre-sales for the film before the film is produced. So the sales report that we're seeing here shows projections reflecting revenues from international sales of distribution rights and US distribution rights on the left under the ask and the target column, and the sales report also reflects actual pre-sales concluded as distribution agreements with the distributors in the US and abroad. So we have our take price at $9,170,000, and of that we are focusing on the actual pre-sales of $5,116,800, and we will, if we put those in relation to each other, meaning we're deducting the pre-sales from the target amount, the take pricing, we will then know how many rights we still have available to sell. This is something that is important when we start looking at our bank loan, which we'll do next. So now we're looking at the finance plan for The Experiment, starring Academy Award winners Adrien Brody and Forest Whitaker. And the budget I have made this movie for is $12,147,987. That ended up being the production cost. And I have used various financial sources, which are driven by the sales estimates, the pre-sales, the unsold rights, and the shooting location. So when we look at our sales estimates, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at two different columns. One is the target or low case column, also referred to as the take price, and we had projected $9,170,000 as our low case. And there is the ask, the base or high case scenario, which projects $16,165,000 to come to us through worldwide distribution license revenues. So of these estimates, of these projections, we have then made actual deals. So we made pre-sale distribution agreements in the value of $5,166,800. So these are, again, distribution agreements we have made before the film is produced. They're made based on the film's script and the cast and director. In this case, we had Adrian Brody and Forrest Whitaker. Our director was Paul Schering. The script was an action thriller. And because it is that kind of genre, we were able to generate $5,166,800 fairly quickly in pre-sales. Now, when a distributor pre-buys a license, at the time of signing that pre-sale distribution agreement, a down payment is due. And in our case, the down payment on the pre-sale amount of $5,166,800 was $767,520. So this amount is actually paid to our sales agent and is sitting there waiting with the sales agent until we have all the other finance sources secured to cover our budget. This is basically the first money that we have raised. The down payment is due right away when the distributor signs the agreement with us, and the balance would be due when the film is delivered to the distributor. So we're going to get later into the fact that we can use the distribution agreements to go to a bank and get a loan for them. And it's very important that the bank then knows, aha, we received a down payment already, and then they can give us a loan on the balance that is due when the distributor receives the film. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what we need to look at here also is the unsold rights at the take level. And we're looking at them at the take level because this is what our investors and banks will look at. So in our case, the take level projected with the sales estimates from the worldwide and national distribution rights revenues are $9,170,000, and our pre-sales that we made from that bucket of rights, if you will, was $5,166,800. So these sales are now gone because they're made. So the rights that we can still sell, if we deduct this from the sales estimates, is $4,053,200, and that is what we refer to as the unsold rights. So the unsold rights are always defined as sales estimates minus pre-sales. So what we did then, we shot the movie in Iowa, and what we did here is we looked at the various expenses we have in the budget and how much of that Iowa would deem as an eligible expense to give us an incentive for, give us a rebate for, basically. In this case, it turned out to be 30% of the budget, roundabout. So we have $3,644,396,000 coming from the state of Iowa. Now, this was normally be given to us when the film is produced, when we show Iowa all the receipts of the expenses we had in the local region. We would like to use this Iowa incentive already in advance to cover a portion of our budget before we shoot the film. So what we do is we put together an estimate of what we believe we will be spending in Iowa and what we believe Iowa will be paying to us as an incentive. And then we take this to a lender who would give us a loan for this. So this would make the Iowa incentive a loan that we can use to cover the budget. So let's see what that looks like. So when we look at a finance plan here, we always start with the senior loan. The senior loan considers first and foremost the sales estimates. And we have seen that our sales estimates have projected a low meaning a take amount of $9,170,000, and the sales estimates were established by a bankable sales agent. That's very important for the loan because the bank is very keen on making sure that the loan they're providing is done for a producer that has a strong project, which is reflected by having a sales agent who is bankable, then selling that project. So here, the sales agent has concluded pre-sales of $5,116,800. We have received the down payment for those pre-sales of $767,520. We have that money already. So what would be left to be paid on these agreements is $4,349,280, and that is what the bank would look at as their pre-sale loan amount gross. They will then charge an interest fee and a loan fee. In this case, it is $413,161.60. So they'll charge this up front. So they basically deduct it from the loan amount, which leaves us with a pre-sale loan amount of $3,936,098.40. So that is our pre-sale loan net, which is the amount that the bank will make available to us in relation to the pre-sale agreements, to the distribution agreements that they're banking, right? The other and the second portion of the senior loan is the gap loan. So here we again take the consideration of the total estimates at $9,170,000 at the take level. We are then deducting all the rights that are already gone, the pre-sales of $5,116,800. So we're left with $4,053,200 still available in rights to sell. These are our unsold rights, right? The bank then looks at these unsold rights and will say, okay, of that, I will give you 50%. So the bank requires a 200% coverage on the loan amount, which means to us, they're giving us 50% of whatever unsold rights we have available. So in this case, 50% of $4,053,200 is $2,026,600. And this is our gap loan gross, right? This is the gross loan amount. It's very important to remember the gross loan amount because that is the loan amount we have to pay back. So here we now have to pay bank interest and loan fees as well. So the net gap loan amount would be $1,834,073. So this is what we are left with for our unsold rights. So again, the bank gives us a loan for the pre-sale distribution agreements, banking those deals in the amount of $3,936,098.40. This is minus the interest and loan fees already. So this is the net loan amount that's available to us. And they give us a gap loan, which is based on the rights we can still sell, our unsold rights, 50% of that value. And that net loan amount after the interest fees are charged is $1,834,073. So altogether, what we have available to cover our budget is $5,770,171.40. What we have to pay back to the bank is the gross senior loan amount of $6,375,880, and that is because we have to now pay the interest fees back. We haven't actually given the bank any interest fees. We haven't given them a check for all these various interest costs that they have charged us. They just deducted them from the loan amount, but at some point, obviously, they expect to get paid for those, and that happens in the recoupment phase. So what we have to pay back is the loan amount of $6,375,880. What we get to use to cover our production cost portion is $5,770,171.400. So again, the senior loan consists of two components: a pre-sale loan, which is a loan against pre-sale distribution agreements, and a gap loan, which is a loan against unsold rights. To be precise, 50% of the unsold rights value. Now, please remember that 50% of the unsold rights value is paid up to 20% of your budget. That is the maximum. No matter how many unsold rights you have still available, you will never receive more than 20% of the budget from any bank. I know. I mean, there might be some that give you more. I've not seen it. So that's your maximum amount that you have to consider no matter what the unsold rights are. So if you are looking at a movie one day where your sales estimates are fabulous and you have your pre-sales done and the unsold rights are great and you go to the bank, just know that they will never give you more than 20% of the budget for a gap loan. So the senior loan gross would sum up the gross pre-sale loan and the gross gap loan, and that's the amount you pay back because that is the amount that includes the interest fees. And the senior loan net sums up the net pre-sale loan and the net gap loan, and that is the amount you have available to cover your production budget. So as mentioned before, we shot the experiment with Adrian Brody and Forrest Whitaker in Des Moines, Iowa. And here, the applicable incentive in the state of Iowa allowed eligible local expenses summarized at 30% of the budget. The loan was secured in advance of the production so that we can cover a portion of the budget in advance, and we didn't have to wait until the movie is finished to then get paid. So the lender applied a charge of 25% for this loan that they gave us and deducted this amount up front. So here we're seeing the budget of $12,147,987. 30% of that was provided to us through the state of Iowa at $3,644,396.10. And the lender who advanced this Iowa incentive to us charged 25% as a fee to do so, which is $911,099.03. So the net amount we had available to cover a portion of our production cost was $2,733,297.08. Now let's see how much equity I had to put in order to make this movie happen. And the way I calculate that is I look at all the various finance sources I have secured so far for my film. So the first finance source I have secured was the down payment in connection with the pre-sale agreements that we had concluded, which was $767,520. And then we received a senior loan against the pre-sales as well as the unsold rights of $5,770,171.40. And as we just mentioned, we had an incentive loan from Iowa of $2,733,297.08. So altogether, I have a subtotal of available financing concluded here of $9,270,988.48. So if the budget is $12,147,987,000 and I'm deducting the amount that I financed through the down payment, my senior loan, and the incentive loan, which is $9,270,988.48, my equity and the amount due to cover the budget is $2,876,998.53. So I had to invest $2,876,998.53 for the film The Experiment to cover the budget, and including all the finance sources I had established to then, use the equity financing that I would put in to cover the balance. So let's take a look at the entire finance plan for The Experiment with Adrian Brody and Forrest Whitaker here. We have included the finance plan elements of the down payment from our distribution pre-sales, our senior loan net, that is the gross loan minus the interest fees and loan fees, the incentive loan net, that is the incentive loan minus the lender fees and charges, and my equity investment. So here we have a pre-sale loan of $3,936,098.40, a gap loan of $1,834,073, a production incentive loan of $2,733,297.08, and my equity of $2,876,998.53 to cover the total production budget of $12,147,987,000. So here we are basically piecing all the finance elements together, which are a senior loan, a production incentive loan, and the equity investment to then cover the production cost for the film. Let's go into the extra credit assignment for the experiment, and let's assume that our take estimates, meaning the projections in the sales estimates that are given to us by the sales agent, are actually a little higher. So in this case, our take estimates of what the sales agent believes he can generate for us on the film, the experiment, is now $500,000 more, and instead of $9,170,000, we have estimates for $9,670,000. So here we have a larger take estimate pool that we are looking at. So what does that do to our finance plan? So what it does is it gives us basically more money in distribution revenues. But how does that affect the various finance elements? Well, let's start with figuring out how the bank loan is affected by this. Now the pre-sales are still $5,116,800, so they have not changed. But because the take estimates are $9,670,000, $500,000 more, our unsold rights are also higher now, because we are now looking at $4,553,200 in unsold rights. So when we look at that, we would then check the gap loan component with it, because that's what is affected by this larger or increased unsold rights amount. The pre-sale loan is not affected because we haven't changed anything there, but because we have more unsold rights, we could potentially get a higher gap loan, which would then reduce our equity as a result. So here the gap loan is now higher because we're getting 50% of $4,553,200, which is $2,276,600. So we pay our interest with that, and we end up with a gap loan net of $2,060,323,000. So our total senior loan is now a little higher because it's $5,996,421.40, which then in exchange reduces our equity investment. Now the incentive is not going to get changed because it's still 30% of the budget. Nothing has changed there. It's not affected by the pre-sales or the increase of the unsold rights. So here we basically have no difference, but the equity investment is lower because we have a higher senior loan. So the equity investment is now $2,650,748.53 because our senior loan was increased, our equity was now decreased. So let's look at quiz 2, question 6, which is very close to your extra credit assignment for the experiment, because all we do here is, again, we are increasing the take estimates, in this case not by $500,000 but by $300,000. But the same applies. All we do is we increase the projected revenues from worldwide distribution rights, and we are therefore also increasing the unsold rights value because our pre-sales have not changed. Our pre-sales are still $5,116,800, but we are assuming that we can sell more rights, $300,000 worth of more rights. So our increased unsold rights amount will therefore be $4,353,200, which changes our gap loan amount because 50% of that is $2,176,600, and that leads us to a net gap loan of $1,969,823, and as a result our total senior loan changes to $5,996,600, $905,921.40, and the equity investment here is therefore $2,741,248.53, representing 22.57% of our budget.